welcome to the Stefan Modesti podcast. This will be the second one that I'm doing today. It is December 11, 2023, and I will call this one The Eviction with the Cops. My mother lives in a four-bedroom townhouse. Had 3 levels. Sort of a ground level and then a second level with a kitchen and a living room on that, and then a third level with 4 bedrooms up there. The reason I explain that is relevant to the story. So she rented one of the rooms upstairs to this guy. He was in his 30s. I will not say his name. But long story short, he ended up being kind of weird. He had some kind of mental issue. After the fact, he had apparently some kind of thyroid issue, and he had a part of his thyroid removed, excuse me, which caused some mental problems. So he was kind of like schizophrenic, possibly. That'd be the closest way to describe him. Maybe bipolar disorder. I don't know. It was, I'm not a doctor, but it was something a little odd. And so anyways, we had a problem before, and I did show up with my friends one day, and not to threaten him, but just to show a little bit of alpha male there to say, hey, you have to leave. My mother's not comfortable with you anymore, so you'd like to leave. And then he it went well. He said, I'm sorry, and he apologized up and down and said everything's good, and he seemed to be okay. And my mother, after a while, I followed up with her, and she said, he's okay. It seems to be, okay. So anyways, we left it at that. So things got bad again. So it got to the point where I showed up, and I was there. We were going to try to get him out of the house. I mean, not physically, of course, but to talk him and get him to agree to leave, or some kind of agreement in that sense. And she was there with her friend Joe, and he was an older gentleman about her age. And so we had a discussion with him, and we were in the kitchen, which is the second level of the house. And he said, I pay rent here. I this is my life. I live here. This is my home. I'm not leaving. And then he ran upstairs. And then he was, yelling to himself and cursing and swearing and being rather loud. So I tried to talk and say, look, look, it doesn't have to be like this, if you just kindly, let's talk about, we give you time or whatever. And he told me to F off and all that. And he goes, I'm going to kill myself. So at that point, I kind of look at my mom and Joe, because they're older. I said, go downstairs. So he grabbed the phone, Joe, and my mom went downstairs. And I told her I said to them, just stay a distance away. All right. So what I did is, I don't know why, but I started talking to him and saying, look, it doesn't have to be like this. And he was just being, really, really, yelling, saying he's going to kill himself. And then he started to come down the stairs. I could see his feet and his legs. But I couldn't see if he had anything in his hand, a knife, whatever. So what I did is I was just sort of keeping a good 30, 40 feet between him and me. So as he went down the stairs, I sort of went towards the stairs to go down to the next level. So so I kept talking to him. And he kept threatening and, I'm going to kill myself and blah, 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 and you're going to be a witness to this and on and on and on. So I was talking to him and at this point, I was just trying to keep him cool, just try to keep him calm. And I was keeping a distance from him. And my mother's friend Joe kind of went up the stairs and looked at me, and then he showed the phone. He pointed to the phone and gave me a thumbs up. So I'm thinking, okay, they called 911. So I thought, okay, I'm just going to stall him and just calm him down and just start conversing. So I was, I just kept conversing. I mean, I don't remember what I said. I mean, this is over 20 years ago, but I remember saying, you don't have to do this. This is all cool. This is all calm. And then he started getting a little bit more aggressive and, threatening, because I guess he figured I was, trying to talk him out, negotiate with him. So then he started to come down the stairs. So what I did is, at this point, I was now at the lower level, on the ground level, and he was at the top of the stairs in the second level. And I was talking to him and saying, look, it doesn't have to be like, same old thing, same back and forth. and he was still yelling and screaming. And then my friend's Joe mom, my friend's mom Joe, I could see him to the backyard entrance, and he looked at me again, and he pointed his fingers up, and I get the point, at this point. I mean, it's the second time doing this. I get it. I understand. And while I was talking to this guy, talking him down, from doing whatever, I did have my hockey stick next to me. I didn't want to hold it because I didn't want to look threatening in any way to him, but I did have it near the doorway so that if he went for me, I could go for the door and I had something. And then I heard about 6 or 7, maybe 10 car doors. Just and I thought to myself, okay, the cops are here. And then I'm thinking to myself, I look kind of, the description of him is probably similar to me. So I'm thinking to myself, if the cops bust in here, are they going to think that I am him? That crossed my mind for a moment, but I thought, well, they were talking on the phone to Joe, so I'm sure Joe explained whatever. So all this is going through my mind, and one thing I'm going to say before, I can't believe how really cool I was. Like, I was, really, really nervous, but at the same time, I was just trying to just calm and talk this guy out of it. So anyways, all of a sudden, the door opened. There was about 6 cops there with their hands on their holsters and looking right at me, and I'm looking at them. And the one, I guess he was a staff sergeant because he had the most stripes. He stepped out in front and said, "Are you Stefan?" And I'm like, "Yeah." He goes, "Step outside." And I thought, and as I went for them, I had my hands up in the air, and they weren't even looking at me. They're just they moved aside to let me out. And then that staff sergeant went to, and I said he's right up at the top of the stairs, and he goes, "Okay, thank you." And he goes, "Where's your mother and her friend?" I go, "They're in the backyard." So 2 of the cops went into the backyard and went right down the hallway to the backyard. I was already outside. Now I stepped outside, but anyways, before I stepped outside, I just stood there for a moment, and he went in there and he just yelled this guy's name. "You get the right here down right now!" And then he said, "Well, I'm not going to go." And he said, "You come down here. If you don't come down here right now, I'm going to come up there." And anyways, he came down. He didn't have a knife or anything on him. And they basically, he just sort of held him. And eventually he did put him in cuffs, but he did hold him and talk to him. And at this point, I stepped outside because I just wanted to get out of the room or out of the house. And I stepped outside, and oh my God, the whole neighborhood was there. There was I forgot what you call it, a bed, ambulance, what do you call those, a cot? I don't know, the bed with wheels that they use to take you into the ambulance. They had one of those right out in front on the lawn. Must have been about 5-6 police cars, like, blocking the whole area in front of our house. The lights going, an ambulance. It was just like, oh my God, all the neighbors are looking at it. I was just like, So anyways, they basically escorted him out, because obviously this was a good reason. So anyways, they didn't arrest him, but they did escort him out with some of his shit out the door, and he was gone. And it was, a relatively peaceful ending. And I just think about that moment when they came in the door and with their guns ready, and they were ready. They had their hands all over the holster, and there were like 6 of them, and they were staring at me, and I'm like going. And I'm between him and these cops because he's up the stairs and I was at the bottom of the stairs at this moment. I just remember that moment. I was like, this is... So anyways, that's the end of this story. And it was a moment. And have a good one. Take care.